questions that are being asked, I'd like to mostly address, so this is my preference, is questions that affect how you walk. Questions about living this out. What he's always told me is, tell them that if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, they'll be where they're supposed to be. But you need a teacher to teach you what it is you need to be doing. What's the more full answer? Okay, Monique, what's out? What's your second question?
So it's very much related. And by the way, that was an amazing answer. It made my brain is doing so many things right now. So I'm going to rewatch that. So thank you. But the other part of my question kind of relates to what Hannah talked about or asked regarding like the exterior. So like the self-worth, self-honor, esteem type of mindset is that internal. But then there's the external where you're trying to do things so you do the basic stuff to kind of just make sure you don't smell bad or look terrible. But then I wonder what the difference is between altering your external appearance and getting into that place of vanity. And that is kind of what I'm more concerned about versus, there's people who have major scars on their face or, they have different things where it makes a lot of sense for them to change their appearance, but I don't want to get into the place of vanity. So do you have any thoughts or advice on that?
Look, everything in life is a struggle for balance. Okay? Everything in life is a struggle to find appropriate balance. So anything can be taken too far on the pendulum one way or the other, right? So you're trying to find that centering. Look, if you ask me personally, I'm not a big fan of makeup, only from the point of view as I don't like it on the woman. I don't think it makes it that much better, this, that, and the other thing. Some of you would never walk out of the house without makeup, and that's fine, okay? But I told my wife, I like her without it. I like her just because I just think she's beautiful without that stuff all over her, whatever it is. And she doesn't put very much on if she does at all because she knows I don't want that. And it's not a Torah issue. It's not a judgment. I just like her just being her, okay? And so, but if these things help you to feel more confident and feel better about yourself and you feel more beautiful and that kind of thing, look, you dress to do that too. You dress to feel better and feel a certain way. There used to be that book years ago, Dress for Success, because when you dress a certain way, you feel a certain way, you behave and act a certain way, all right? And so, sure, you should do these things, but look for the balance, okay? And so you should be always observing yourself and how you feel with what you're doing. And does it feel like it's going sort of too far one way or the other on the pendulum swing here, or is it just sitting right there in that center, okay, where you're just really good and it's fine, all right, okay? And also, ladies, you single ladies, unless you want a real shocking moment when the husband gets to see you without makeup, unless you're planning to wear it 24/7, don't get too much about changing. It's you. You're you. Feel good about you're you. People need to love you looking like and being you. Now, if you put a little bit of something just to do whatever, that's great. I'm not against that, all right? But just understand, I understand what Monique's getting at. Where does it become a vanity thing? Well, all of us have seen people that have done some plastic surgery work. It has gone too far. Because vanity has no end. There's always something to do. There's always something to tweak and to nip and to tuck and whatever, okay? And then it ends up looking like a freak show, all right? And a lot of ladies do the same thing with makeup, and it looks like a freak show, okay? All right? I think if you do it well, the first thought out of a person's mouth should not be, or mind should not be seeing you like, oh my gosh, look at all that makeup. Okay? It should have its subtleties that it's just doing what it's supposed to do, okay, without drawing a whole lot of attention, okay? All right, anything else, Monique?
Nope, that was so perfect.
Right,
Thank you so much, Rabbi. I love you guys. I love you, Rabbi. Bye. Shabbat shalom.
All right, Shabbat shalom. All right, let's go to Antonia Lumen.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi.
And tell everybody where you're at.
Kenosha, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, okay.
Yep. My question is from Matthew 7, which is also, I've been listening to Yeshua the Rock, like a lot.
Okay.
And in there, it's building that foundation, right, on the rock. And you talk about...
So you're talking about the end of the chapter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you encourage us to dig deep into the scriptures. Now, you're really good at that, but for me, how do I go about digging deep into what I'm reading?
No, okay. Look, and I did that teaching a long time ago. So since then, I've given some clarifications on what that should look like. Your best way to dig deep into the scripture is to have a guided digging. Okay, so listen to teachings. They will dig as deep as you need to go and be guided in the process, okay? You do not need to dig on your own. Unless you want to end up in a hole that's not, off in a ditch somewhere, okay? That's not the kind of digging you need to do. Now, people get mad at me saying, well, who's he to tell me I can't? But I didn't say you can't. I'm just letting you know that this was not meant to be deeply studied without guidance, okay? Because that gets you into all kinds of bizarre places if you do. You need guidance, okay? Does that answer your question, Antonia?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, that was it for you. Okay, good. All right, let's go to Karen Diaz and tell everybody where you are.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi. I'm
Shabbat
from
Shalom.
Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. It's an hour from Toronto.
Good.
I have a couple questions. I have more, but I'm not going to ask them all. In regards to the tithe, like the practical application of it. So how do I know what year we're in? Is it the first year that I start doing the second and third tithe that I start counting? Or
Yes.
does MTOI have a count?
No, we don't have a count, okay? And that is the way I teach it. And I think if you listen to the tithing teaching, I explained it in the teaching, okay? So the third tithe, which is the only one you need for counting years for, okay? The third tithe, the year that you become aware of it, all right, is going to be your first year. Now, if you become aware of it like 3 weeks before Sukkot, well, then that doesn't count as your first year because the new year changes after Sukkot. So the next year is going to be year one. I mean, if you just found out about it now when we just finished Sukkot, or the next month or two, then this would be your first year in counting your years, okay? So we kind of go towards the closest Sukkot to decide whether it's year one or year two, okay, for you, okay? Did that help?
Okay. Yeah, and practically speaking, am I sending in my second and third tithe every paycheck, or am I have a separate account for it and then I send it in all at once? Practically speaking, how does that work?
All right. So first tithe gets sent in, okay? Second tithe you keep to use for feast keeping and only send in what you don't use that year for feasts, okay? So you need to keep that separate somewhere. You can have a separate account for it or whatever you do. Okay, then at the end of Sukkot, when you're finished with Sukkot and Shemini Atzeret, whatever is left that you did not use, that you would send in, all right? And you would start again from scratch right after Sukkot. And then your third tithe also, you would save it up. That third year, you would send that also, if it's your third year and sixth year, you would send that the same as your first tithe. Just make it a separate check that says it's for third tithe. Okay? Now, practically speaking, to make this a little bit easier, okay, practically speaking, I would third tithe every year, but in year 1 and 2, I would use that for paying off debt, putting money away for retirement, any kind of things that you normally wouldn't have money for. And then in year 3, you send it in. Then in year 4 and 5, again, you use it for big things like paying off debt, putting money towards your emergency fund, towards your 3 to 6 months expense replacement, etc. Put it towards those things to get your finances right. And then in year 6, you send it in, all right? Then year 7, you go back to just putting it towards, and 1 and 2, 7, 1 and 2, and then year 3 again. Does that make sense, Karen?
It does, thank you. And another question that probably probably the answer could be there is no possible way. I'm not sure, but I'm in Oshawa, as you know, and there are no congregations here. The only place I have to go is the Seventh-day Adventist Church because they keep the Sabbath somewhat, which I don't enjoy because I go and there's conversations I don't want to be a part of. I have a hard time listening to the sermon, so I'm listening to you mostly.
Right.
But then my teenagers, is there any traditions or anything that I can do to engage them in Sabbath? When they were younger, there was lots of things I could do. But now that they're older, I don't know how to engage them in the Sabbath.
All right, so I believe that the Parsha Pearls, the one for the older group, would also have stuff that would be good even for teenagers, okay? So that's something that they could do. And as far as a congregation, we've tried to get things going in Canada for many years, and Canada just doesn't want to take. They just all want to do what they just all want to do. They do not want to come under authority or structure, okay? I've tried. Ontario has been the least effective. I've been more effective in Manitoba and in Alberta. We had one little thing going in Saskatchewan for 5 minutes and a little bit in BC for a little while, but it's just, Canada just has not really taken. I've been to Canada multiple times going across the various provinces, and I've not been able to really get something to solidly anchor. There are people that are solidly anchored, okay? But there just have not gotten a congregation to really form there. So, and then the other side of it is, I don't know how you go to the Adventist, because I couldn't go to any mainstream or not mainstream church and listen to Jesus' name being used, and in the Adventist case, all the Ellen White being taught more than even the Bible's being taught and all this other stuff. I just couldn't do that, all right? So, now as far as your teenagers engaging, do they do the Torah, the teenager thing with Rabbi Tom, the Torah time?
I'm having a difficulty because I think I mentioned before that their dad is Adventist, and he's not about the Torah at all. And so even just getting them to
okay, how old
even
are
hear
they?
About the Torah is difficult.
How old are they?
13 and 15.
All right. That's a terrible age to try to get them to do anything, okay? Because they're already working their way towards self-sovereignty and independence, okay? So stop struggling with it. Do the best you can. Let them know things are available. See if they'll do them or not. I wouldn't push real hard, because then the harder you push, the more you get the backlash where they're just going to run the other direction, okay? They will get their own bubble pop moment, and they will make their own decision at some point. Not the one their father made, not the one you made. They'll make their own decision, okay? So don't worry about them, all right? I've got a daughter here and a son that's not here, okay? And the son that's not here, I'm just waiting for him to have his moment, okay? I'm not worried about him. I don't push him at all. I'm not hard on him, all right? And so he does what he does, okay?
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I have another question, but I'll go back in the line. Thanks.
Okay, since I mentioned Canada and Alberta, we'll go to Anna in California, since I was thinking of your family. Even though you're in California, but I was thinking of your family that's up there in Alberta. Okay, so, hi, Anna.
All right, yeah, Shabbat Shalom. So I just had a question, because I know it was probably about a month ago, you made a comment about that there's no verses anywhere. There's no verses anywhere that says that we need to accept Yeshua as our personal savior. And I just thought you could clarify about that, because the first verse that comes to me is in Romans 10:9, where it says, if you confess Yeshua's, whatever, you're saved. I know you covered that verse last week, but yeah, if you could clarify, that'd be great.
All right, so this is one of those things where people get locked up on semantics and they try to and it's not your fault, it just happens with a lot of people, okay. So in 10:9 it says that if you confess with your mouth the Master Yeshua and believe in your heart that Elohim has raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. Okay, now, nowhere in that verse it says you have to claim him as your personal anything. You're just acknowledging who he is, that he is the Messiah, that he was raised from the dead. Okay? Now, of course, I explained it in much more detail how it then connects to Deuteronomy 30, because the previous verses are connecting it to exactly the Torah. All right, so because that's the context that Paul's kind of approaching in here. But just understand that this is the same thing when I tell people there's no Hebrew phrase, Ruach HaKodesh, in the Tanakh. Okay? People say, what are you saying? There's no Holy Spirit in the Tanakh? No. It says Ruach Elohim. It says all kinds of other things. It literally just never says, not that I've ever found, because every verse you guys throw me doesn't say it. Okay? It says Spirit of God, Spirit of this, but it never, if you look at the Hebrew, says what we use. We very commonly and freely use the words Ruach HaKodesh. And I've not found that, okay? So the same thing here. There's no verse that says you need to receive him as your personal anything. All right? This verse, let's read it again. If you confess with your mouth that the Master Yeshua is the Master, like you recognize him as who he is, and you believe in your heart that Elohim raised him from the dead, you shall be saved. So you are, by the way, you're acknowledging, as you acknowledge in covenant, who he is. It's kind of like the 8 declarations we make when you go in the mikvah. You're acknowledging who he is and the relationship you have. And you're taking on the responsibilities of being a citizen in the kingdom of Elohim, etc. But it's not you receiving them in some way as your personal anything. You're actually committing that you belong to them and you know who they are. Okay? This verse is saying you're going to confess that you know Yeshua is the Master, and that Elohim did raise him from the dead. So you're just acknowledging the state of things as they are. That acknowledging didn't say you have to claim them as your personal anything. Okay, that is not in Romans 10:9. Okay, did that help, Anna? I can't
Yes,
hear.
it did. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem. All right. Let's go now to, we got a couple of people all waiting for their second and third turn. So let me see who I can get to the first turn. All right, we got Sierra in North Carolina.
Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5.
Okay, your sound is not coming across real good. I think I got some of what you said. Try again. See if we can clean that up a little bit.
Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5.
All right, Proverbs 26, verses 4 and 5. What would you like to know about it? Do not answer a fool according to his folly.
And do I don't I? Reading those two back to back is just confusing for me.
So you were still breaking up, but I think I know what you're saying. So, okay, so it says, first of all, it says, do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you also become like him. Then it says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he become wise in his own eyes. So what is it trying to say here? Because it sounds contradictory, right? Okay, so he says, do not answer a fool according to his thing. In other words, don't get sucked into whatever he's doing, lest you become like him. But he says, answer a fool, recognizing that it's folly, okay? He says, lest he become wise in his own eyes. In other words, you go and address it that you recognize that it's a folly. Otherwise, he's going to, if you address him, like in other words, you get sucked into it in the first verse, then you're going to become like him and he's going to think he's smart and right and all this other stuff. Then he says, but address the folly, lest he become wise in his own eyes, thinking how smart he is because you got sucked into it. Did that make sense to anybody? Okay? This is the problem, though, when you have a language that's very old, being translated through other languages, through other generational things and language evolving and all that kind of stuff. So these idiomatic phrases, okay? So he says, don't get sucked into, I'm going to do my own, this is Rabbi Steve's paraphrase. Don't get sucked into the folly of a fool, lest you become like him. In other words, don't get sucked into the conversation and just play along with that folly. He says, answer him and address the folly. Otherwise, he's going to think he's so wise in his own eyes and smart because you played along and fell into his folly, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. Did that help?
Yes, that was perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right, if that was it for Sierra, then let's go now to Sean Miller. And Sean, tell everybody where you are.
I'm from Sugar Land, Texas.
Okay.
And I had a quick comment on something that was said earlier today, and then a quick question. We discussed birthrights earlier in this Zoom meeting, and it did not dawn on me or put together the whole picture until this past year, that none of that line, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, gave their birthrights to their firstborns. Abraham gave it to his secondborn. Isaac gave it to his secondborn, and Jacob didn't even give it to any of his born, but his grandchildren. So anyway, that was just a comment on that. The other thing was about the personality profiles.
Wait. Let's hold on. Let me just comment on that to say, okay, so people might be wondering, so why is that? Why did he do it that way? And I think he did it so that we don't sit there and feel entitled. Well, I'm the firstborn. Well, no, you're the firstborn if you do what you're supposed to do. You can get skipped over if you don't. Okay? So I think he did that to show that it's not enough to be the firstborn in chronological order. There's an expectation, okay, that is there. Okay, so Sean, thank you for bringing that up because I think that's important that I got to make that comment. Okay, continue.
Yeah, the question was about the color codes, personality charts.
Okay.
I took mine somewhere around between Sukkot and Pesach last year. And I had a problem with, I think, 4 questions because I could go either way very easily without even thinking about it. There was no struggle. It was like, okay, is it both? I can't answer both.
Right.
So I took it 3 times and switched around the order in which I answered those 3 questions. And they came out, one was 49 red to 42 blue. The other was 46 blue to 40 something red. But in any case, I started thinking about it. Oh, there's only 11 white and 1 yellow there.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right. So you're very purple.
But, go ahead.
I said you're very purple. And that's, look, one of the things that the color code test is not really ideal about, it's only 45 questions. And there are going to be questions where you feel like you could certainly answer more than one way as far as your choices. I would normally recommend, if you have somebody that knows you real well, and ask them, hey, which one of these do you think is more me because I'm struggling between this choice and this choice. And by the way, if we had more nuances to it, and by the way, obviously your problem was between red and blue or blue and red. Okay, with that, so therefore, it's just a matter of the fact that you're purple and you have a lot of blue and a lot of red. And depending on the situation, you might be a little bit more red or blue, which is why you have both in some of those answers. Okay, which is why if I was to redo this test, I would say that you could pick both answers and you would get an extra point in red and an extra point in blue because you're both of those at times in those type of situations, okay? Because now when I first did the test, my wife and I both did our own tests and then we critiqued each other to see what we thought the scores should be, and we completely agreed with the other except for like one choice. Like there's just the one question that we would have done differently. And so, actually, you know what? That wasn't even the color code. That was a different test. But the thing is, I have at times asked her, hey, is there any way I can get a blue answer out of this? She goes, nope. Anything about this one? Nope. I mean, just knowing me, okay? I have more of a struggle with the questions where I can't feel like I'm any of the 4 things, and I don't know which one is less not me, okay? So that's the tougher ones for me. I know the other side of it is like, well, I feel like I'm all 4 of them or 3 or 4 of them. Well, that's tough too. So those are the kind of questions that are not nuanced enough to get you actually a specific answer. But in your case, it doesn't really make a difference because 42, 46 or the other way around, purple, red, purple, blue or red, blue or blue, red, you're still purple, okay? And you still have an awful lot of blue to deal with, okay? And you need a lot of red to deal with all that blue. And so that's kind of where you're at, okay?
Which is which leads to my question. I look back over my last 40 years or so of where I was at different stages in my life. And for the majority of my younger years, I was purely red. I mean, there was almost no blue or anything else. And then after I was married, I was still red, but also had a lot of blue. And then after several years of marriage, I started turning more blue. And as I turned more blue, I turned more white later on until probably 3 or 4 years ago. And have since gone way red with a lesser blue now. So my question, I guess, is these things change over time or just circumstance?
No, look, the important thing about the color test is it's a baseline way of understanding, how personality works, okay? So you can understand why you're good at things and why you're not so good at things, why you struggle with some things, why some things are easy. And it's as far as it evolving and changing, I think that that's certainly possible. I mean, the idea of the color, the second book that he wrote, okay, Dr. Taylor Hartman, when he wrote the second book, was about how do you bring in the strengths out of the colors you don't have very much in and weaken the weaknesses even in the ones that you have, okay? And so I have been working hard over time to bring some of the positive blue and positive white in, since I have none of those, all right? None of the positive, like none, period, just no white, no blue. And so how do you bring that in, right? Okay, so yes, you should learn to use that. That's your baseline default. In other words, without making any effort, you by default will respond to a situation in life, like the ones that were in the 45 questions, in the default way of your personality style. So over time, can that change? Can your default change? Sure. Okay, I think it absolutely can. Which is why I disagree with the guy who wrote the book, where he wants you to answer the questions based on where you were as a child. So not everybody's where they are now as where they were as a child, personality-wise. Things do sometimes change. Now, just so you know, for me, I took this test over 25 years ago, and I took it again much more recently when we did this as part of the ministry, and I had one answer different, okay? I had actually one white vote somewhere 25 years ago, okay? The red was the same. I just had one less yellow. So instead of having 39, okay, and 60, what is it, 39 and 6, it was 39, 5, and 1, okay? So instead of 6 yellow and 39 red, I had, 5 yellow, 1 white, and 39 red. So, it didn't really change much. And I don't even know how I got that white vote back then, because I looked for it this time, I can't figure out any one of those. I asked my wife to find it. So I must have just made a mistake. But I have not changed. Okay? And most people don't change very much as to their baseline. Now, you may be thinking you're changing because you're learning to adapt and choose to be more of something, okay? Especially with red and blue. Since you have enough of both, you could be very blue or very red, okay? Just because you're purple doesn't mean that it always balances out in every situation. Some situations you can be very red, other situations you'll be very blue. I know people that have like 25% of each of them, and they think, oh, that means I can be whatever I want anytime. Well, it doesn't. I mean, it sort of theoretically does, but it doesn't. It means that you're probably very one color in this situation and a different color in that situation, but every time you're in this situation, you're that color. In other words, you're probably one way at home, a different way with your buddies, a different way at work, a different way at whatever, right? And that's your default in that particular circumstance and environment, all right? Because I've watched people tell me how balanced they are, and I see them being very one color all the time in that area. Okay? And so it's not like, oh, I got all four, I can just choose whichever I want anytime I want. That's not how your personality works. Now, you should get there eventually where you can choose once you recognize that that's how your personality works and now you can choose. I do, and you have probably seen me do some very blue-looking things. And some of you think, Rabbi's wrong, he's got all this blue. No, I choose to do blue things, but I have to think about it and make the choice to do it. And usually I end up doing it for red reasons. I'll give you an example. Many of you were here on the opening night of Sukkot, and we were all having dinner, and I walked around and talked to every single person sitting and hugged everybody in a very blue way. But I did it because the red in me said it needs to be done. But I still had to do it in a blue way. I had to be relational and social and go around and actually care about people and do those things, all right? So I did a very blue thing, even though it's not my default. But people watching me go, oh, come on, look, he's being all this blue. Well, yes, because I chose to be. It wasn't by default. It was my brain going, this is needed. People need me to walk around and say hello and hug them and all this other stuff. Okay? So that's why I do it. Otherwise, I would never do it. Because I just wouldn't be something that would be in my default to do. So, Sean, is that making sense?
Yes, sir. My one more quick question is probably a yes or no for somebody like you. Is there any correlation between the 12 spies that went out to spy the land, and 2 of them said, Yahweh said it, let's go, and the 10 that said, oh no, this and that, and then they were forced to be punished for 40 years in the desert? And when during the dispersion, the 10 northern tribes were dispersed and scattered and all of that, and the 2 southern ones were not.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some metaphors that Abba's allowing to play out for that kind of a picture, okay? Just like we see a lot of things with 12 because of the 12, that's important that way. By the way, you're seeing 2 red gentlemen say, come on, let's go, while the 10 blue gentlemen were freaked out and panicking, okay? All right, just saying, all right? Now, by the way, and this came up, Elder and I were talking about it this morning. Can you guys please understand, even though as a red person, I praise and putting up all this positives, red's got a lot of negatives. All colors have a lot of negatives. All colors have a lot of positives. Stop wanting to be red. Choose to be red when it's important. But you don't need to be, okay? You are what you are. If you're blue, you're blue. You're white, you're yellow, yellow, whatever. But you can choose to make red decisions when they're needed, all right? Red is not the best color. There is no best color. That's not true. Red is the best color for certain things. Yellow is the best color for certain things. White's the best color for certain things. Blue is the best color for certain things. But there is no color that's better than the other colors. It depends on what you need, okay? If you want to be all relational and social, red is not the color you want around. You're going to want blue and yellow around for that kind of stuff, okay? All right, so just, because I know you guys will take the test and everything else thinking that, I need to be red. No, you need to be red when you need to be red, okay? And most life situations, unless you're in a leadership position, like most of the time, you don't need it. I need it, which is great that I have so much of it because I'm almost always in a leadership position, at home, at work, in everything I do. So it helps. But most of you are not like that most of the time. But you do need it when you need it, okay? But I'm also brash and abrasive and callous and uncaring and all the other negatives of red, okay? Loud, rude, insensitive. There's a lot of great stuff that reds have. Stop thinking that it's the best of the best, okay? I mean, if you want somebody to care, you got the wrong one, okay? Because we just don't, okay? But some of you are like, but I see you're caring all the time because that's a red choice because you need it. It's not blue because it's just me being me, okay? That doesn't mean I'm faking it. I do care, but I have to bring that up from a different direction, okay? Just like you have to, if you're not red, but you need to be red, you need to bring that up from a different direction, all right? You have to choose that kind of thing. Look, some of you need to enjoy much more of the white and yellow. Have more peace and actually have more fun, okay? All right? The yellow over there just almost jumped out of her chair. All right, so she didn't hear anything about the white part. She was like, yellow, fun, yay. Okay, so, All right? And when I say have more fun, I mean, just because you're not yellow doesn't mean you don't have fun. Make it a priority to have a little bit more fun. Yellows have a priority to have fun, okay? Which is why I guess I have, my only other color is I need a little bit of yellow to balance out all this ridiculous amount of red, okay? So I could have some fun, which basically turns out as sarcasm. That's what it comes out as, okay? Red, yellow fun is basically wise guy sarcasm. That's all it is, all right? Anyway, thank you, Sean. Anything else?
Yeah, you made a red pill, blue pill joke in part 52 of Are You Covenanted? that I thought was classic. I hope you remember it and can use it again.
All right, I'll have to look it up. I know that it goes back to the Matrix, and yes, the red pill was reality, and the blue pill was stay in the system. So anyway, and look, and that's just look, you guys who are blue, I love you. I wish I had more blue so I could do some of the things that make you guys so wonderful. But you got your emotions start to drive, and when your emotions drive, you're not seeing things straight like you need to at times. Okay, and that's just the reality of that challenge. All right. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Okay, let's go now to, all right, it looks like I only have repeat people on here. Is that correct, whoever's running the board? Okay, good. All right, so let's go to, who was the first one on the repeat list? Probably Ernesto, or maybe the first one. We'll try to pick you guys in some sort of order. Okay, Ernesto, you want to give it a second shot? After all, how much fun we had the first time.
Well, up until a few months ago, I didn't even know what the color thing about the color thing. So, and I said earlier, I don't really talk a whole lot because I'm usually in my head. So I learned that I'm more blue than I am red by a little bit.
No way.
But I guess what I want to say to you, Rabbi, is I'm working on this because I realize a lot throughout my life is a struggle to be able to talk to somebody. And when they're talking to me, be out of my head, which is not easy for me to do because I take it seriously to listen to somebody. And so I just want you to know that at no point in time ever would I be a person who wants to frustrate you or annoy you or disrespect you because first time I ever hear you do a teaching is when the light starts to get brighter in my head. So for me, between you and I don't spend enough time around anybody to know there's something, like if I'm going about a certain way or talking about a certain thing, that if that is annoying or not. And I think you just said a few minutes ago, you say that blue needs red to be there to, so you always talk about a smacking or something like that. But I just want you to let you know that I'm picking it up a little bit better to the point where you're telling me something I know you wouldn't tell me if you didn't care.
Awesome.
And so I want to say that I appreciate what you said to me today because everything I was telling you today has been a struggle for me because I'm trying to figure out what to do because I don't understand why these people are coming up to me to begin with. And yes, there's very obvious, it's very obvious things that I could say. But when my mind is elsewhere and I'm not thinking about any of that, the autistic part of me, which is basically rolls out everything else, that's what comes into play. So, like a son coming to a father, probably the annoying one, the one that's whatever I'm going to call it, I just want you to know there's no hard feelings. And if I didn't have you, then things would probably be a little bit worse off because I don't know what it's like to have a dad or a mother. So I don't care if I'm 51 years old. If I was there and say, well, Rabbi, we want to go to the boxing gym or something like that, I don't mind shuffling around because that's where I'm at. I just want to know what to do. I want to know what to say. And I just wanted to tell you that I appreciate you. And I'm sorry that I have been a pain. Because and that's not a negative way of saying that. It's because I really don't know. And I'm running into a wall a lot. So whatever you're going to tell me to do or you're going to tell me to say, that's exactly what it's going to be. Because I will not go outside the word of Yodevave or Elohim.
Amen.
And if that's coming through you, I just want to say that I'm coming to love you as regardless of a red or what. Yeah, I'm not the kind of person that wants to mince or share words, but I can tell you right now, I feel like lost out here a little bit, just like we call it a leaf in the wind. And so I need to grab a hold of something. And that's why maybe I'm annoying you, but that's why I'm grabbing a hold and I'm saying, look, I see I have a problem. You're going to yell or get mad at me? Okay. Well, I don't even know what that's like from a human standpoint to have a father, just anything. So it's like kind of like a jolt. Like I got thrown into some frozen ice water and I'm coming out. I was like, why'd you throw me in the water? So I just want to tell you that you're my rabbi, and I look at you as a human father. So I'm not going to disrespect you. I want to be held accountable. And that's pretty much what I want to tell you, because I think I'm eating off the fat in my own head a lot of times. So when you were getting after me about something, that's why I didn't say much of anything, because I'm trying to find that foundation of respect of a father and a son, being as that I am a father. And I'm trying to, my son has the respect for me, but I've never really had the opportunity to have respect for a human father because I never had one. So I hope that was okay to say to you.
Yeah, it was great.
You want to smack me some more? I'm not a brown noser. I don't just say something because whatever, and I don't know what color that is.
Look.
I am very emotional.
I missed that last line. What did he say about the color?
Oh, I said how I am is basically with people, they can burn their bridges with me like really quick. I don't like to deal with people who, certain things. So I don't know what color that is, but I know
bridge burning is blue.
For surety that the color I'm more of is blue.
Yeah, if somebody can burn their bridges with you easily enough, that's all blue. Okay, let me just say, first of all, I appreciate everything you said. And for the people who don't know, Ernesto's been calling here on a regular basis for a while. We've got a relationship. But I want everybody to really understand this you can't use blue language to describe a red reaction, okay? I don't find people annoying, okay? I don't find them to be a pain. Elder will tell you I never use those words. I find them to be frustrating. Okay, and that's a word so I don't want you to think, well, I'm sorry if I'm being annoying. You're not being annoying. None of you ever annoys me, okay? And I don't think you're a pain. I find it frustrating sometimes to communicate with some people because it's just sometimes really hard to communicate, all right? And so, but don't ever be afraid to continue to, as you just said, to continue to try to communicate just because I might get frustrated. But I am not annoyed ever. I never look at you as annoying or as a pain. Okay, and I appreciate what you need. I
wanted to say that I would love for my son Zebulun and me. We want to move to Cleveland, Tennessee. We want to move there, Rabbi, when things it's possible for that to happen. And I just want to say that I would love to spend more time getting things, because I don't want to be whatever is causing me to have issue.
Right.
I want normal, and I want to be able to say that it's just tell me what to go do, and I'm gonna go do it, and see my son and me in our normal habitat.
All right. Well, and hopefully that'll play out soon.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Hopefully that'll play out soon. Thank you, Ernesto.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All right. Thank you for coming back on and sharing that. Appreciate it. Okay? All right. Shabbat Shalom. Okay, let's bring up, I have no idea what order we did this in before. Shakara. I probably took you before I took, actually, Ernesto, but that's okay. Let's get Shakara back up here.
Alrighty, I'm gonna fire some away, just stop me, whatever. So the first one, you were talking in a previous Zoom meeting about tithing on like second businesses, side hustles, things like that. When you're working a full-time job and you're starting the side hustle and it's not productive yet, obviously you can't tithe on that. At what point do you start tithing on that?
Okay.
Like the first dollar that comes in? Or?
No. Look. Okay, businesses don't tithe. People tithe. And so you're going to tithe on what you disperse to you to spend. So if you have money in the business, that first dollar is going back into the business. That's not something you actually get to spend, all right? When you take a dispersion or pay yourself something out of that business, now you're tithing on it because now it's an increase to you. Okay? Because businesses have a lot of money, especially in the beginning, they go right back into the business. So you're not tithing on that. It's not an increase yet. Okay? But as you take out, that's a disbursement to you, something you can now go spend on whatever you want. That's where you tithe. All right? That's where you tithe. Okay, did that help?
Yes, that was perfect.
Okay.
In Genesis 3, verse 16, you were talking about Hawa and basically how she ate the fruit because she just her own desires were taking over. She wanted to rule over her husband. And then obviously part of her consequence was that she got what she wanted. Now she always wants to rule over her husband. How do we squash that? Can we? I don't want to rule over my husband that I don't have yet. But,
all right.
Yeah.
So look, there's several issues here all rolled into one. The first issue is this, all right? Not perfectly, but if the man was a man, you would not feel as compelled to want to rule over, okay? Problem is society has shown you that men are oafs and stupid and goofballs and losers and lazy, and this is all of what Hollywood and everything else puts out there for you, okay? And so women have if one way or the other, I'm gonna get it done. If he's not gonna do it, I'm gonna get it done. If this is, I'm gonna get it done. Okay, that's sort of the survival instinct in a woman, okay? Now, that's where you're gonna still need to work on, I have to then trust my husband if I pick a man that actually, ladies, pick a man that already is where he needs to be and is going where you wanna go. Don't do a fixer-upper. Otherwise, it'll turn into a fix and flip. Because you're not gonna want to before you flip, okay? You're gonna need to get out of that deal, all right? All right? Okay? All right, you need to find somebody. Now, of course, if you're young, it's a little bit tougher. I mean, like, you're in your 20s and it's, how many men are already where they need to be at that point? Well, then you need to find a man that really, truly demonstrates that he is going somewhere, is doing the things to show he's going somewhere, and it's somewhere you want to go, okay? So basically, yes, I get your concern with having that attitude. That attitude will be easier to deal with if you find a man that's going to be able to, because look, if Adam had stepped up, he could have told her, hey, hold on. And if she argued with him, she said, no, it's not. I'm the man, you're the woman. There's got to be something where you say, let me take care of this, let me protect you, whatever, where you can trust that, okay? But that didn't happen. And that's where the problem started. Now, that's not to say that if you have a man, and I know some women that actually have a man, but they're still so brainwashed generationally with this whole nonsense because the women in their lives and the women in generation had to do all these things with lousy men or weaker men, that letting go of that need to control, it's really a control usurping thing. It's a control thing. You're gonna have to learn to let that go, Shigar, okay?
Let go of control?
I know I just spoke anathema to the blue. Okay? Let go of control? See, it's funny because you guys all think the Reds are control freaks. No, we're not. It's you guys that are control freaks, okay? Because you're ruling out, your decision of being ruled out of fear, okay? A lot of the Red is ruled out of fearless. And then you think we're being careless and just reckless. But you're controlling because you feel if I don't control, something will go wrong, something bad will happen, something will whatever. And so stop the fear and you'll stop needing to control, okay? Because as a red, I can tell you, if somebody else is doing something, fine. Okay, you don't want me involved? Fine, go do it yourself. And if it blows up, it blows up. I don't care, all right? Whereas the blue's thinking, I'm aware of something, and if I don't jump in there, it's gonna blow up. I'll walk over and offer, hey, would you like me to help you so this doesn't blow up? No? Okay, then it'll blow up. You laugh, but that's my reality, okay? All right? Okay, many a counseling session, people do blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, well, then do what you want, and then if it blows up, I don't care. And they look at me like, what? Well, I'm not gonna try to control your stuff, okay? But you gotta stop trying to control. So Shakara, if you have a control issue, that's gonna be tough when you get married. You're gonna have to get that thing under control, all right? Get your control issue under control.
How do you not care about stuff blowing up though? Like not just stop caring if it goes wrong or...
It's not caring. It's not that you stop caring about it blowing up. You stop making it your problem. Why is it your problem? Do you know that 99.99 whatever percent of things that blow up aren't that bad anyway, and people survive them, and including hurricanes that wipe a bunch of stuff out. If they didn't get killed, they rebuild, they get things, whatever, okay? I mean, most of the time, things that blow up aren't that bad. I mean, they're inconvenient, and they may set you back a little ways, but they're survivable. And the lessons that are learned, if they're learned, are invaluable, okay? And so, successful Reds are successful because things have blown up a lot in their lives. And we weren't afraid of it, we learned from it, and we hopefully don't have the same blow-ups more than once in a row, okay? Okay, but that's how you get to be successful in life, is not being afraid of things going wrong. The problem is, there's a side of the blue that believes nothing should ever go wrong, everything should be preventable. And so they frustrate themselves trying to make that actually be reality when it never will be, okay? And that's where the stress and anxiety overwhelms the blues, because they can't actually prevent everything that could possibly go wrong from going wrong, all right? The parent has a child who is now an adult and has a job, and the parent is aware that that child is asleep when they're supposed to be at the job, and so the parent is freaking out on what to do. The child will deal with the child being late for work. Not your problem. But, so you want to call the child and say, why aren't you up? And you want to leave the child alone. But then it'll go bad. Yes, it will. Things have to go bad sometimes. Stop trying to prevent everything from going bad. Okay? You learn more from what goes wrong than you do from what goes right. That doesn't mean let it go wrong on purpose, but stop being afraid of it, okay? If you want to be obsessed about it, be obsessed only about the things that are actually yours. Problem is, as a blue, you forget that there are actually boundaries and that not everything is yours, okay? So you think everything you're aware of is yours, okay? But that's just not reality, okay? You know what? There was a movie, man, I wish I could think of what the movie was. Michael Keaton and a bunch of other crazy guys that were in like a psych ward and they went to a baseball game. You know the movie I'm talking about? What was it called? Yeah, all right. Well, in that movie, one of the guys was obsessed with things like garbage and cleaning it up and everything else. And so the therapist at one point crumpled up a paper, threw it on the floor, and the guy went to get up and says, no, let's leave that paper alone, and then tomorrow we'll learn how to leave other papers alone. Okay? But that's where some of you have a problem, not realizing that's not your problem. Because the person who threw it, it was their problem, not his problem. The other guy wanted to get up. He says, no, that's not yours, it's mine, and you can leave it. The guy's like pulling a muscle, wanting to get up and go get it. But that's what you guys do. And then you call here, and I have to like almost yell at you guys, leave it alone. But, there's no but. But it's gonna go bad. Yes, it will. Leave it alone. How can I do that? I don't know. I know how I do it. I just don't care, and that's it. How do you do it? No, it's not that I don't care. I don't own it. So when I say I don't care, I mean it's not mine. But you're aware of it. Yes, I'm aware of it. You know. Okay? Look, if my wife ever came to me and said, one of my children, blah, 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 I'm now aware of it, and then I say, well, good, leave it alone. What do you mean leave it alone? Well, let it blow up, let it do whatever, you know. It's not, my children will tell you, they used to come to me, they said, my daughter said it was so annoying when I did it. They say they had a problem with this, that, or the other thing in their 6th, 7th, 8th, whatever, 9th grade, whatever. And I said, I already graduated. I figured all this stuff out. Nobody helped me figure it out. And you look at me like, man, that's mean. No, that's life. Okay? Well, I'm all stressing about this paper. Well, I stressed about my own papers once upon a time. Do your own damn paper. All right? I know it doesn't make sense to all of you through the blue filter, but okay? All right? But then they'll get an F. Good. They'll learn from it. It's not going to be the end of their world. Okay? Very, 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 very few, if like maybe zero jobs I ever went for, ever looked at my transcript to see whether I got an F anywhere. They didn't care what my grade point average was. Yeah, I'm not saying there aren't some high-end jobs that might care as entry level, but very few, okay? I mean, did you ever go into your doctor's office and ask for their GPA and see what their whole grade point average was and everything else? No, they got the thing on the wall that says they graduated. Okay, it says they graduated. All right? I mean, that's what you need to know. They figured it out and got it done. All right? How did we get off on this? Shakara, it's your fault. Okay. All right, so what else you got? Actually, I've got only 14 minutes left, so let me see if I can blast through some of these real quick here.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to put you on hold because I got a couple of new people jumped in the room that we need to get to. All right, let's go to Rachel and tell everybody where you're from.
Okay. I'm from Pleasant Plains, Arkansas.
Okay.
And I normally converse back and forth with Rabbi Tom, but I have these questions that have been piling up for a long time. So I'm going to try and throw a few out so I don't overwhelm him. One quick one would be like the certain feasts like day 1 and day 2 of unleavened bread. I don't know if I wrote that right. Shavuot, day 1 of Sukkot, and Shemini Atzeret, where they're the feast days and you can prepare food. Is it okay to clean on those days? Like your basic necessary type stuff?
Look, necessary stuff is always allowable if it's actually necessary.
Right.
Okay? Necessary. All right? Your child on Shabbat throws up all over the place. Well, you'll clean that up. All right? Okay? That's a necessary cleaning. All right? But the only difference between normal Shabbat and those feast days is that you can cook what you're going to eat that day. No other rules change. Okay, that's just the one difference because it's a feast. And so to enable you to have a feast and to cook and enjoy your feast, that rule is the one thing that's different, okay?
Okay, that helps because I'm always trying to do it the right way. And there's always some changes. Okay, another quick question is regarding actual Shabbats. Is it okay, like as you're getting ready to go to bed, is it okay to just read a book or, like a daily word game or to watch a few YouTube videos? Or is that like, no?
Look, I don't know if anybody's going to really like this answer very much. I personally find it really, really challenging, I think most of you do too, to keep your vertical brain 24 hours for the Shabbat. I think you should make the effort and find things that are appropriate to do. Okay? So no, I would not be reading secular books. No, I would not be watching secular videos. No, I would not be doing any of those things. I'd be trying to accumulate enough things that are at least to a very strongly, justifiable, like if you had to make a case, you can make a strong case that this is something that's vertically focused, all right? Have things to watch, to read, to listen to that are Shabbat worthy, all right? Okay, so, I'm not playing video games or whatever it is, and these are things that are not necessarily going to be vertically minded, okay? So just to the best that you can. I know sometimes it's a challenge. I'm not going to say that if you accidentally do or you find yourself just overwhelmed. It's not like it says anywhere that, these are all things that you necessarily can't do, but you're not seeking your pleasure on his day. That's Isaiah 58 verses 13 and 14, right? So, don't do these things as best you can. And you're saying, well, I really struggle. Well, then find more things to do so that you have a list of those things ready when you get to Shabbat. My children knew when Shabbat was coming that I was going to announce Shabbat, and whatever they were doing, they would switch over to the things that were approved. They knew they would change what they were doing on their laptops or on their computers, on their phones or whatever. They knew to make the switch. And they already knew the things that they could do, okay? And so just have that planned better and then you'll have less problems. Okay, what else you got real quick?
Okay, there was one, maybe it's a little deeper and that's okay. I can wait for a response if it's not much time. But a couple weeks ago, we were talking in Acts, I think it was in Acts, and in regards to James, it's my understanding that the Sanhedrin were those who were responsible for making judgments in Israel. Is that correct? And if so, was James, the leadership in Jerusalem, part of the Sanhedrin? How did he get authority, and was this authority a source of contention among the Jewish leaders that were already in place? That's not too big of a question.
I can answer that pretty quickly. Okay, first of all, the Sanhedrin was the wise, not so much judicial, but legal body to make decisions about the law, okay? So there were 70, plus you had also the Av Bet Din and the Nasi. So you had 72 people in the Sanhedrin. And these ones were responsible for debating and arguing and establishing how do we apply Torah in a particular situation. Okay, they make those kind of right rulings. They were not the judges like in the legal system necessarily. Okay, these are more the legal scholars that had to make more legislative sort of decisions based on the law. Okay, now, so James was not a part of that body. Okay, but he was part of the Jerusalem Council or the leadership of the early congregation or assemblies that followed Yeshua's death, resurrection, etc., and the establishing of the apostolic, the disciples going out there and starting congregations. And so the headquarters for that was Jerusalem, and the head of that was James. Why? Because that's what Yeshua left them with, okay? And do we see that all played out anywhere? No, we don't. Now, a lot of people might go say, well, no, I thought Peter was left in charge. No, that's a whole different discussion where Peter actually recognized that he's the Messiah, and on that understanding, he was going to build his assembly, okay? It wasn't based on Kepha, all right? Kepha did not have the emotional makeup to be in charge of anything on that level, okay? Because he also was very blue, all right? All right, so, okay. So that whole thing was, we know that James was what he was by watching and observing the function in Acts, okay? We can see his authority being wielded. We can see it being respected and the decisions he was making. All right, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Can I ask one more, or I don't want to take up too much time?
Oh, actually, there was one more piece that you said. And what about it being a source of contention with the other Jewish community? Everything they did was a source of contention for the Jewish community, but not the fact that he was making decisions. Just everything that they did was a source of contention for the Jewish community, okay?
Okay. I'm trying to find that last. Just a quick one. I'm always trying to weed through what previous teachers I heard from them and trying to figure out what's true and what's not. Matthew 23:35 mentions Zechariah, son of Berechiah. And a previous teacher was teaching that this was John the Baptist's father, and that John was raised in the wilderness by his mother because the father was murdered. His father was murdered in the temple. Is this correct?
I've never even heard that, so I don't have any idea what
okay.
Okay, look,
all right.
My recommendation,
you just kind of have to
my
get it
recommendation to you and to all of you out there, if I'm now your teacher, just let everything else go. You don't have to go back and rework it, re-examine it, and refigure it out. Just listen to your teacher, okay? It's a lot simpler that way than to have to unravel all the nonsense and confusion that everybody else was saying, okay? It just simplifies things. All right. That's going to sound very cultish to a bunch of people, and I don't care. That's their problem, all right?
No.
Okay.
All right. I'll let other people get some questions in. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, we don't have a lot more time, but I am going to go to a latecomer, Mr. Jonathan Thompson, over in California. Hey, Jonathan.
Shabbat shalom, Rabbi. Shabbat shalom, Mr. Ka. I got a family member who's an SDA minister in mainstream Christianity. If they're interested in comparing what they believe as SDA with this walk, is there a teaching you recommend in addition to the fear of Yahweh teaching?
Look, if they want to compare what we believe to what the SDAs believe, I mean, they just listen to any or all of the teachings. I mean, it'll give a comparison. And I don't do a direct comparison to what any denomination believes and what we believe. I just put out what we believe, okay? So, you know. I mean, the first obvious difference is that we don't want to have Ellen White involved in anything we do. So that's the first obvious difference, okay?
Yeah.
All right, I've been to an Adventist service where basically I was thinking, are they ever going to quote from the Bible? Because they quoted her much more than they quoted it, okay? So, all right, anything else, Jonathan?
Thanks, brother. That's everything. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Who was actually the next one that I got next? Because I have maybe time for one more. All right, Annabelle, we'll let you get that last one in there.
Hi, Rabbi. Okay, so yeah. Genesis 6:14. On here, it's talking about, okay, so the Noah's Ark is to be covered. Could this be like the ark that had to be covered, the one that they carried with them during Moses' time, and everything inside of the ark is to be covered? Also, comparing that to 6:14, like the box where everything was covered. And could I put this together as I walk out with Yahweh, I have to stay inside the ark in order to be covered at all times?
I like some of your analogies, okay? I mean, look, they're literally just talking about covering it with tar, so they're making sure that it wouldn't leak, okay? I mean, that's what's happening in chapter 6. When you're talking about like the follow the pattern teaching, we talk about, you know, that you're going to make an ark and you're going to put a lid of atonement over it and those kind of things, all right? That's a different type of covering, okay? So those things are not the same. The end part, what you said about, you know, being covered and protected and keeping something safe and everything, I'll agree with that part. I got another few seconds. Karen, go ahead and you get one last one in here, and then maybe we can get Shakara one last one, and that's it. So let's see.
I wanted to ask about the Hillel method, because I know you had mentioned that in your teaching on the appointed times that you follow the Hillel method. I just wanted to ask exactly, because I looked online.
No, we use the Hillel calendar.
Calendar, calendar, thank you. So I looked online to try and figure out what exactly that is.
It's the one that's on every calendar that you have.
I understand. I'm just saying, like, how do they calculate the feasts? Like, what calculation do they use? Do you know? Are you able to answer that?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it uses a bunch of mathematical calculations. What does it matter?
I'm just curious. I calculate the feast for myself, and I found that your dates matched up with mine, so I'm curious.
I'm so glad that my dates lined up with yours.
I didn't mean it that way. I'm just curious about it.
No, you're not. You're curious about it because you're trying to figure out the right calendar. You're not just curious about it. And so you need to just let that go. Okay?
Well, for me, it's very important. Like, I'm sure it is for you.
Why? No, it's not very important to me. It's irrelevant to me. I explained that in the making the calendar decision. Okay? So why is it very important to you?
Well, I want to make sure that I'm worshiping on the right days.
Well, maybe it's more important to find the right anointed appointed and do what they say. See, I think you got the thing out of whack. Look, okay, did you listen to the teaching on making the calendar decision?
I did.
Okay, then you understand that it's not important to me to go through the extrapolations. And by the way, I've done all of them. Everything you can come up with, I've looked at and tested, okay? And it's not important to me at this point to do anything but Hillel for the reasons I gave in that teaching, okay? Are there problems with the Hillel calendar? Sure, there's problems with every calendar that I've seen and experienced that anybody's ever showed me, okay? I can show you whatever you're doing. I can show you the same problems you have. They're all problematic to some degree, okay? Here's the question, though. Here's a question. It does say to walk out your own salvation in fear and trembling, but are you supposed to do that on your own? Are you supposed to do that in the context of just you? So if you figure out some calendar that's whatever, perfect, whatever it is, and nobody else is doing your calendar, does that actually make sense that that's what the Father wants? Okay? See, I don't understand well, I do. It's sort of an anal blue thing at times. I have to get this right. I can't be wrong. I got to figure this out. But he purposely doesn't give it to us. He purposely does not give us that simplicity. Now, the last official body, Sanhedrin, as we were talking about before, gave the dispersion this Hillel II calendar. Okay? And so we have chosen, for all the reasons I gave in the teaching, I'm not going to give them now, to keep that calendar. Okay? But you're not just curious how Hillel came about it. You're trying to figure out what's right about it, what's wrong about it, how it compares to yours, because you're trying to find the right calendar. Instead of trying to find the right cloud or pillar of fire that you're supposed to be following and get under that leadership. Okay? So you're looking for the wrong thing. Look, I get that everybody, and I appreciate this, you want to be right in his eyes. Okay?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. But where is authority falling into this? I mean, if you do not come under authority, but you figure out the calendar, which do you think is going to be more important to him?
Well, I want to be under his authority, right? But he has his
Okay,
people,
but whoa.
obviously.
But you can't be under his authority all by yourself.
No.
That's not his structure. Okay, so if you're going to find his structure, Ephesians 4:11, and then that's the structure that's going to give you what we're doing today.
Okay.
And either you trust that or you don't. Okay? Okay? All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Look, I think that's an important point to all of you. Are you doing this by yourself? Do you think he wants you just doing this by yourself? I know some of you are located where there aren't any other people there, but are you going to be doing this by yourself? Or are we still going to be looking for the structure and the leadership that he says will always be there? And then get in line with that structure and trust that structure. Well, how do we know we can trust the structure? Trusting him to show you where that is, if you believe it exists. Paul thinks it exists. He told the Ephesians that he thought it existed and that it would always exist until Yeshua comes and fixes everything. That's literally what he said in those verses. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. All right? So then we don't have any of these Torah issues in that case. Agreed? Agreed. Okay, good. All right. Shakara, I'm sorry, we're not going to get to any more. So everybody in the room, thank you for your participation in the Zone 1.